All right, well, I think we'll kick things off. Welcome to everybody. I'd like to acknowledge today the lands that we're on for our First Nations people here in Australia, but also around the world. Always was, always will be their lands. We're so excited. We've got people here that weren't able to join us last time. We hope you, if you haven't, that you've seen the newsletter that went around. Don't hesitate to send us a quick email if you didn't get it, and we can send that link to you at a later date. So who is Open the Doors? Open Doors is a place for everybody to come to not only express how you feel about the changes that we need to make for people living with dementia and within aged care, but also a place for you to be able to showcase your amazing work, allow you to be able to connect with people all around the world instead of us all working individually in silos. Nicole and I, and I'm sure many of you are similar, in that you meet so many amazing people, but there just wasn't that space to get together on a regular occasion. Our meetings are fortnightly currently. They will be moving to quarterly. We thought we'll go from fortnightly to monthly, and we will be shifting the meeting time to ensure that we enable a time that is not in the middle of the night for everybody, wherever you are in the world. So more details on that to come as well. It's a place for global thinkers. It's a place for people living with dementia, for carers, for people that are working on the floor, for innovators. It's for anybody that really, really wants to make that change and are making changes. So we've got actually, and Aaron today is going to be keeping us on time in regards to where we're going with each of the sessions. So we should be here for an hour. There's a couple of trailers that we're going to play at the end. If you can stay with us, and we'll remind you about that closer towards the end as well. So just in regards to an agenda for today, if there's anything you'd like to add at any point, whether that's towards the agenda or whatever happens through this next hour, please put it in the chat and we'll keep watch of that. And if need be, we will, if we're not able to get to it today, we will ensure that it's carried over for the next meeting. So I'd like to make some introductions, again, for those that weren't with us. These are our wonderful founders. So I'll just go through. We've got Nicole Smith, who's been an absolute driver in making this happen. She's one that if there's an idea, let's do it. There's no need to wait. I was at a meeting early this morning. We were having a discussion about change, and it can take up to 18 months change. Well, 3 weeks ago, her and I were having a conversation. Then there were 6 people. Then there were 60 people. And then we had, as I said, 174 people register for today. Maury, who's in the creative parts of support and service that he does and is incredible. There's me. Rhiannon, who is the extraordinaire of pulling that newsletter together and getting all the tech pieces and the beautiful videos. And she's the Grants and Research Coordinator at Community Homes Australia. Sanal, Clinical Services Manager, Registered Nurse at Community Homes Australia, and a beautiful representation and leader of the CALL community. Dr. Rodney Gillick, who's enabling this all to happen and enabling his team with Nicole, it's both their team, to be involved and provide time and supports and resources to make today happen and the future. Saga, who's the Corporate Services Director at Community Homes. Josephine Tite, who's over in Canada and founder and Wellbeing Consultant at Positivity Centre in Calgary, AB Canada. The wonderful Lisa Roger Owens, who's over in New Zealand and a dementia specialist, and Aaron Richardson, who's on the sunny Gold Coast, so he doesn't really get winter here in Australia, and the National Operations Manager for Aspen Aged Healthcare and an aged care consultant. So then who are the door openers? I think we've got a little video here that Rhiannon's about to share, and this is all of us, and there'll be more and more coming. Still feel teary a bit, as I was yesterday when I watched it. So the presentations today, we're going to be having Josephine Tite, one of our founders, and a wellbeing consultant, founder and wellbeing consultant at Positivity Centre in Canada. Following from her, we will have Susie Singer-Carter, writer, director, and producer, who's in Los Angeles, California, with Rick Mountcastle, who's a producer, retired federal and state prosecutor, and he's in South Carolina and the United States. Then we'll come back to Australia, where we've got Wendy Hall, managing director of Dementia Doulas International. She's based in Adelaide in South Australia. So we've got some great presentations for everyone today. Then we're going to pass you over to the safe hands of Maury, and it's an opportunity for us to reply to any of the questions or comments that have been made, and open the floor as well for any questions and answers. And then Sanaa will take us through any action steps and next action items, next steps. And then Aaron, he will wrap us up. And as I mentioned before, we've got a couple of trailers of Susie's to share at the very end. So as they say, without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to the rest of the team. And I've just had word that Rodney's joined us, which is exciting, who I mentioned before. So welcome, Rodney. I'm really excited you can be here. He's one of the founders. There he is. Hi, Rodney. So Nicole and Rodney are actually at the beautiful resort in Bali that they've purchased with Community Homes Australia for people living with dementia, and anyone actually. We could all go there next year maybe and have our first conference.
We thought we could open the doors conference here.
In Bali.
We're going to buy our ticket right now.
Well, that's good. We will definitely make sure that we get something coming together for that. Okay, so I would love to introduce now Josephine Tite. I think I've said your names a few times now, Josephine. She's the director and founder at Positivity Centre and holds a diploma in positive psychology and wellbeing. She's provided years of coaching to older adults living in all types of care settings, working alongside their care partners, friends and families to improve the quality of their lives. In a world that needs connection and relationship to succeed and thrive, Josephine understands, and oh how she does, how the science of positive psychology can be applied to taking care of yourself and others. So Josephine, I'll pass over to you, and Rhiannon will stop sharing so that you can share your presentation.
Sounds good. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Okay. So thank you so much. I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit about who I am, the work that we've done over the past little while, and especially dive into a little bit about this one particular tool called Tools for Caring, which is essentially birthed out of a lived experience. Obviously, when you, as many of you know, when you study a field intellectually and as an academic, you end up living it yourself. And so Tools for Caring was really birthed out of a personal experience that I had as a care partner with my godmother here in Calgary. So without further ado, here we go. Okay, so the Positivity Center does exist as an organizational development consultancy to enhance the well-being of an organization. And we do that by enhancing the well-being of their people. And over the last decade or so, we've had an opportunity to create a lot of tools and resources, psychosocial, I guess you could say, tools and resources for our aging population and those that spend time with them and those that work alongside them, live with them, care with them, all of you. So there are a few things that I always like to share kind of in the beginning because they are convoluted terms that can sometimes lose a sense of understanding within their terminology. So the first one is well-being. You can think of well-being as wellness plus. So it's really the eating well, the sleeping well, the moving your body, the exercise, in combination with a whole lot of other things that look at like a little bit more of a holistic view of the person. Our organization in particular really dives into the psychosocial and the emotional components, but obviously well-being can also include other components like spiritual, mental, financial, but it's that holistic view of a person. Positive psychology, founded by Martin Seligman, is really the study of what makes life worth living. And so we love taking those terms and applying them in this care context. And the last term to sort of identify as one of our priorities and make sure that we all kind of understand and have a foundation of it is the term positivity. Because oftentimes people think positivity is about being happy all the time. And in fact, it isn't about being happy all the time at all. But it is more so about building the social and the psychological resources that you're going to need to move through all of your life, the highs and the lows. So we really take these three things and apply them in the care context. We focus on the whole person. It's really individual and collective, where lives are characterized by a feeling of aliveness. Tasks are definitely fueled, like where there's connection and care simultaneously happening. And families, as most of you probably are already doing all of these three in some way, shape, or form, they're partners in care, right? So we really kind of work together in those three areas. So Tools for Caring was birthed, like I said, out of a lived experience. Right now, it currently exists as 4 tools, which are videos. And then there's a toolbook that you can download that goes along with each video. And they're found at toolsforcaring.ca, and I'll explain a little bit about each one of them.
Well done.
So Tools for Caring. Anyways, toolsforcaring.ca. This is the first of the 4. Connection is really about looking at, all these tools are looking at the science of positive psychology, how we can apply them to anyone's caregiving experience. And it doesn't really matter if you're a friend, a family member, if you're working in care, living in care, if you're paid, not paid, it doesn't really matter. The connection one is really about looking at caring from the view of a dance. We call it the dance of care, because it's really about dancing with someone and not always being the expert. It's just learning to step down as an expert and give the person you're with a chance to really step up in their life and in their care, looking at where they can contribute, where their capacities are, where their potential is. And so that's the onus, if you will, of the connection tool. The other one is strengths. Strengths is really all about doing more of what you love, for sure, and getting some wind in your sails, kind of getting those tailwinds going in the direction that you want to go, so that everything just feels a little bit more vibrant. You're a little bit more energy. The other tool is emotional nourishment. And this particular tool really dives into, emotional agility, emotional processing, and finding ways to be a little bit more onerous in intentionally creating the emotions that you want to experience, especially with the person that you're providing the care for, whether it's one-to-one or in a group setting. And so every particular tool will have a toolbook that has all the science and kind of a bit of an intro. And then it also has these guided experiences that you can go through. And the last one is meaning. And the meaning tool is really about looking at what's happening from a sense of wonder. And what I mean by that is there's always a lot going on. And in our life, we have a tendency to look at, what's happening in my lens, not necessarily what's happening in a shared lens. And so and especially because it can be very challenging at times, like all of you know, if you don't have a positive way to look at how that experience is meaningful to you, you can get sucked into those difficult circumstances. So the positive meaning and looking at the things that you're sharing with the person become very important. And so it's not just my world and their world, it's an our world. And in this tool in particular, we like to call this putting on your wonder goggles. In other words, how do you look at this and notice, something new in a familiar situation that you've been through, like time and time again? Because as you know, we get into these modes where we're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. So one of the things I thought to share with you is, maybe yes about the tools, but a story in which all these tools were basically happening in a real life scenario. So over the past year, I was managing in a dementia care area. And one of the things I had the blessing of being able to do was create some experiences. And I tried to bring in a lot of novelty and nuance and get people to try things that, we've never tried before. So one of the things we did was we made some chocolates. And there was this one particular lady who, she used to be a teacher. And so she had this tendency to want to help people. And of course, oftentimes in the care sector, it's no, they can't. So I made sure to sit her beside somebody that I thought might need a little bit of her help. And this chocolate making experience was so beautiful. In fact, when all of the residents were like flipping out the chocolates from the molds, they were like in total awe of their work. It was so cool, to the point where somebody even asked me, can you please take a picture of my chocolates? And so I did that. Anyways, this one particular resident, we were cleaning up and she came and tapped me in the back of my shoulder. And she said to me, this has been so much fun. I've been thinking about getting a job here. Now, this is the same lady that used to be a teacher that actually did end up helping somebody through the whole entire experience. And so we had a very cool conversation, and basically I hired her up. We handshook on it. She knew I didn't have the money. It was kind of a volunteer scenario. And I kind of thought, I wonder, like, did this impact her that much that she would remember? And of course, as many of you have found in this industry and in these scenarios, they don't always remember, and that's okay. So anyways, fast forward about 4 days from that day, we were doing, this is like the scenario of an emotional nourishment, if you will, tool, where we were creating the feeling of gratitude. So we do a gratitude meditation, and then we open up conversation to what do we want to share about gratitude or about the things we're grateful for. And so very naturally, we just had this conversation, and people were sharing profoundly that day, like what was going on. One particular resident shared that she was thankful for the things that hadn't even yet happened. And so that was a really interesting thing, because I've never been thankful of things that haven't happened yet, like things that were coming up in my future. So anyways, this one particular resident, the same one who had had so much fun and I had hired to be my volunteer companion for this particular like role, she actually says, I'm thankful for all the things I've been able to do. And so then I repeat what she said to the group, but I added a couple words because I thought the context was this. I said, so-and-so is so thankful for all the things they've been able to do in their life, because I thought that's what she meant. And she stopped me and she said, no, I'm thankful for all the things that I've been able to do here lately. And I cannot even tell you like what shifted in me at that moment when I thought to myself, like, what is going on here? You don't remember. She even saw pictures of herself with her chocolates and couldn't, identify herself. She didn't remember making chocolates, but somehow she had an experience and an emotion of gratitude for an event like that. And I thought to myself, like, what could be actually possible if we lean into emotions and look for how the emotions are impacting those living with dementia? Because at the end of the day, we are emotional beings that think. We're not thinking beings that feel, if that makes sense. Emotions are the driver. They make up everything we do in our life. And it was just so interesting to me that it made me stop and think, how did tools for caring apply, like in this setting and with this particular lady? How did she experience gratitude for something she factually couldn't even remember? And so for me, anyways, the tools for caring that I applied in that scenario was really profound on my heart, because I started to think about people, developing the skills and the resources so that they had the capacity and the muscle, that emotional muscle, to notice the quality of emotions and how they were shaping somebody's life. Because as you know, people that are living with dementia, they experience emotion just like the rest of us, but they don't have that emotional processing center. Their emotional agility is just it's not working like it used to. And I mean, we all have trouble with that anyways. Perfect. And so, yeah, I just wanted to say, like, that is the possibility, and that I hope that the next time you take a bite of chocolate, that you remember how it makes you feel, and you remember that you have the opportunity to co-create emotional memories with the folks that you work with and that you live with each and every day. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Josephine. I love your work, and I'm sure more will after today as well. So our next person, we've actually got two people together. We've got Susie Singer-Carter, as I mentioned, writer, director, and producer from Los Angeles, California. She'll be speaking on her documentary, No Country for Old People, and the she's producer of the documentary No Country for Old People. And also my mum, sorry, Susie, I didn't have it written down, but my mum.
And the girl.
And the girl. Thank you very much. Sorry about that.
No problem.
And Rick Mountcastle, who's joining Susie, producer, retired federal and state prosecutor from South Carolina. And he will be here with his discussion around challenges of the American long-term care system. So I would like to pass over to Susie and to Rick. Rhiannon, if you can stop sharing, and then Susie and Rick will be able to pick up from there.
Okay. Rick Mountcastle. I live in South Carolina now, but I was in Virginia until 2022. I'm a retired federal prosecutor, 32 years of that, and then 3 years with the Virginia Attorney General's office. And since I've been retired, I carry Susie's bags. That's my retirement gig. So I did a lot of cases against big pharma. I did some cases against nursing homes. And what I saw was that even though my cases would help I perceived it as helping individuals, and doing these individual cases, they took a lot of time and energy and effort, and they were worthwhile. It didn't change the system. The system kept getting worse. Okay. And so, Susie and I met through a series of unforeseen events after I retired, or as I was retiring and after I retired. And we had some conversations, and the conversations were, how do we go about making a change to the system? In essence, a change in the culture. Because we can have these conversations amongst ourselves. We're all like-minded people. We all have common goals. But there are forces out there, especially in our country, the United States, that completely oppose any kind of change to the system because they are making so much money off of it. And that money is used to perpetuate a system that harms people. It puts profits over people. And the politicians are perfectly happy to do that because, again, in our country, there's no limit on lobbying and campaign contributions and funneling money to politicians. And they respond to that with their policy decisions and their legislations. Again, I don't know anything about any other country. I'm speaking about the United States. So we've had these lengthy conversations about needing to change the system and combat that money that is there against us. So what we've come up with is, here's a way to try, right? The way you try to fight that money, because we don't have anywhere near that amount of money to fight that money with any kind of money. So it's with people. We have got to gather people. We have got to expand our community. We have got to reach the other people out there who don't know what's going on, who don't have time to know what's going on, and we have to educate them, and we have to grab them by their hearts and bring them in and ask them to join us to demand change and to use our collective voices, our votes, to get out there and even take to the streets and make a big ruckus, to be disruptors. We have to get people together, not just the people that sit in these chat meetings, because Susie and I have been to many meetings with many different groups. And in essence, it's very good. It's very good to exchange ideas, but we're preaching to the choir, as they say here in our country, or, it's kind of like an echo chamber. So what we're trying to do is to create a tool, a vehicle through film, through a documentary, to reach out and touch people's hearts, to create a movement, a grassroots movement of people to combat the money and the profits that are working against us. So that's kind of where I'm come from.
And I'll just try very quickly. I met Rick because I have a podcast called Love Conquers Alls, and which came out of a movie that I produced called My Mom and the Girl, and I can't figure out how to do these slideshows. So you're going to just stay and watch the very short trailer at the end of this, because it's lovely, and it's Valerie Harper plays my mother in it. And I did this in order to destigmatize and, Alzheimer's and dementia, and really sort of share my experience, which was, I did everything wrong, and then I learned how to do things better. And so I wanted to share that, and it seemed to resonate, and we were Oscar qualified and got a lot of people that it resonated with. And so I wanted to keep the conversation going. And Rick was so great to come on my show, because he had, in one of his cases was against Abbott Lab, who and Nicole and Rhiannon and I spoke about this, the chemical restraining that goes on in our long-term care. And he prosecuted Abbott Labs, who off-marketed Depakote to nursing homes, which my mom was a victim to. I didn't know it till it was too late, but it rendered her immobile and incontinent and really exasperated her Alzheimer's. So, he came on to talk about that, but then little did I know, as I was going through a horrible time in the last 6 months of my mother's life, I didn't know what I didn't know. I mean, I literally was, sucker punched in terms of the system. I thought that it was just my mom's particular place, but it was a 5-star place in Los Angeles that was treating my mom horribly. And he was the first one to tell me I was up against a systemic crisis. So I was, I had an epiphany, and I thought, if I can be so naive or ignorant, and I was my mom's caregiver, and she was one of my favorite people in the whole world, how am I not aware of this? And how am I advocating for her and not being able to change one damn thing? So after she died, we decided to make this film, No Country for Old People, because I saw things I couldn't unsee, and I had to tell it. I have to share it, because no one should go through what my mom went through. And my mom is just one of millions. And, we've been working on this day in and day out for 2 years. And I now know what Rick was talking about, the follow the money and the business model, which is profit over people. And it has been in place for 50 years. So traditional advocacy hasn't worked. It isn't working. And like Rick said, we are the currency. We are the only people. We're the answer as a collective to stop what's going on. So we're hoping that this film, which is my mom's story with 70 other experts and caregivers and, advocacy groups like the National Consumer Voice for Quality Long-Term Care, Canner, Gray Panthers, on and on, adding their expertise to this project. And I hope that, we hope that it opens up everyone's eyes, and we hope that they're angry and motivated and activated.
So we'll just swap over to Wendy for the moment. You can present, Wendy, if that's all right. And then Susie, we'll just bring you in at the end just to show you slides, recap over that, if that's all right. So Wendy Hall, Managing Director of Dementia Doulas International.
You got it.
Adelaide, South Australia.
Yeah, beautiful. So I'm happy just to launch into it and just go from there. I'm in boring Adelaide, so I'm in Australia. I'm not anywhere exotic like everyone else seems to be. But all good. So the Dementia Doula role. I, again, have founded the Dementia Doula role and Dementia Doulas International. It was a concept that started about 10 years ago. I come from a clinical background well before that as a registered nurse and an on-road paramedic from many, many years ago. About 20 years ago, I kind of thought I was passing through the world of dementia, and I just never left. I found myself, working with people in the earlier stages, post-diagnosis of dementia. That was a unique space for me. I was used to working with people who were no longer able to talk about their experiences. I was working with families who I just realized really early on were disconnected. Their social, everything was just changing for them, and they didn't have a voice right from day one. So I really found myself staying within certainly the dementia realm, and went on to then do education and training. And I promised all the amazing families that I worked with that I would be taking their stories and shoving them down everyone else's throats, and telling people what they needed to know. What did they want me to tell people? What did they need? And so fast forward 10 years. So about 10 years ago, I, like many people in the system, said, I think I'm done. I'm educating and training staff in the sector. I'm saying the same things over and over. I'm building up staff. I'm making staff feel like they can take on the world. And then as soon as they walk out the door, the system just tears them down and says, we don't have time for that. So that was what I felt. I've got nothing more to give. So I thought, you know what, I'm out. I'm going to go do a gardening course or something and do something totally different. I then had my epiphany, kind of going, you know what a cop out. People with dementia and their families, they have to show up every day, and they don't get the choice of saying it's too hard, I don't want to play anymore. So who am I to say the same? So I found myself going, I can't create another training program. It's not working. So I thought, okay, my last option is to infiltrate through families. I'm going to build up families and create a force that's to be reckoned with. So to do that, I knew I needed to create a new role in the sector. I needed to find a way to create a new role that was at a leadership professional level, that really gave families a voice in a way that it really would make a difference, and a strong advocacy role as well. And I wanted that role. And I guess what I saw really, really early on, right 10 years ago, I saw in my head 3 big tick boxes. And the first tick box was clinical care, which was already covered. Personal care, already covered. Compassionate care, tiny little tick, because it sucked. And compassionate care was what people, what staff were doing if there was time, and that was what they wanted to do. But of course, there was no time. So we had to dedicate a whole leadership role to compassionate care. And after the good part of 5 years researching and finding just the right foundation and model, the Dementia Doula was created. And then all of a sudden, my wonderful community and like-minded people came out of the woodwork and said, this just talks to what we want to do. So Dementia Doulas International started about 5 years ago. We wanted to be able to train quality dementia doulas, but most importantly, we wanted to support them in their practice. We wanted them to feel loved and valued, and that they were doing something good, and that we would fill their bucket so that they weren't just giving and giving and giving. We wanted clear boundaries in place so that they knew when to be able to comfortably say, that's not my role, but I can show you where to go. So that was a really big feature of what we wanted to be able to achieve. So we wanted to be, excuse me, there for families from pre-diagnosis through to time of bereavement. Another big area that really saddened me was certainly when I was working in that community context, that I was working in funded programs like so many of us have done before. I would then build relationship and trust with families, excuse me, and then right when they needed me most, I had to say, sorry, the funding has run out, the funding has been reallocated, or sorry, your family member has deteriorated, as such they no longer qualify for this program. And that just broke mine and the heart of my colleagues. So we had to do it better. Again, I'm just thinking, what have I not covered? I know I haven't covered a lot. The history of the role, what was bugging me most was that people with dementia were still dying alone, surrounded by a lot of people. Dying alone with 1 or 2 family members that diligently are still turning up once or twice a week, or 2 o'clock every day, because they feel that that's what they need to do. The rest of their support community has long gone, and we needed to stop that. We needed to make sure that we could get in early enough, pre-diagnosis, great, post-diagnosis, and make sure families and the wider community are sticking together so that family can have a better experience. If we can infiltrate through families, then staff, they're going to become a more cohesive part of the team environment. We want families to be part of that team. So while Dementia Doulas International, we're very much focused on training and supporting our dementia doulas, we have only just launched Dementia Doulas Australia. So our stand alongside not-for-profit, and we're so excited that we're going to follow very similar to the Jane McGrath Foundation here in Australia, where no one going through breast cancer should, they need to have access to a breast care nurse. We want to ensure that all families have access to a dementia doula. And now we've got interest in New Zealand. So if you are joining us from New Zealand, we are popping over there in August, and we're going to run our very first program there next year. So I can't show you our contact us details, but they will be very, very, very easy to find. So thank you so much. You can tell I don't need slides, but they do keep me on track. So thank you. Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I'm so excited to be part of such an amazing community.
Thank you, Wendy.
Great. Well, thank you so much to all the presenters. We have lost our beautiful narrator for the meeting, so I'm just going to take over from here. But I'm going to shortly pass it over to our lovely Murray, who is going to guide us through Q&A. So go ahead, Murray.
Hello. Thumbs up if you can hear me, everybody. We seem to be having... Oh, look at all those thumbs. Hello. So Janice O'Shea, there are a few hands going up, so I'm just going to open the queue and throw to you and say, but just first of all, I thought we might ask some questions, if it's okay, of our wonderful presenters and use their knowledge. And if we have time, then we will move to talking about the mission of OTD and what you'd like to see happen. But if you could put those ideas in the chat so we capture them and make sure that we can put them in our list for discussions. Last time we had some wonderful, robust discussion around terminology, which is something we would love to do. And I might just jump to Alwyn, is it? Alwyn or Alwayne?
Sorry, just unmuting myself. Alwyn, you're pretty close, Maury.
Alwyn, that's right. Hello.
I was just putting in there because I thought I wouldn't get a chance. I'm very passionate about pain, and particularly assessing pain and loss of movement, falls, things like that, with people with dementia who can't speak out. So I've just been enjoying so much of this. You're all fantastic. But Rick and Josephine, either of you actually, I'm just really curious what your thoughts are about things like physio and allied health. You know, that's been something I've been banging my head against the wall for a few years now. That's unfortunately not going anywhere good, despite lots of us calling it out. Just how you make that change, Rick, I suppose, when you've got corporate interests who pass on $300 million of the $800 million put aside for allied health, and no one seems to care enough about it to make a big deal about it. And Josephine, you know, just how can we get that heart back into this clinical space so we care enough about people that we notice when they're in pain, you know? So we may not be able to answer it, but anything along those lines would be helpful for me and others.
Shall we start with Rick? The first question was Rick. Alan, that was two really good questions. We'll start with you, Rick. What are your thoughts on Al's question there?
Yeah, about the money. And so, you know, I can speak only from my experience here in the United States, which is that people recognize that there are failings in our healthcare system as a whole. And then, you know, I've been focusing right now on the nursing home system, but the whole system has failings. But the problem is that there is so much profit that is being made by the big companies and the owners, and they and a lot of that money comes from the government itself, right? Our Medicare and our Medicaid programs, which fund healthcare, they take a chunk of that money and they turn around and give it back as campaign contributions and as to pay for lobbyists to go up and make sure that things don't change, that legislation is not passed to change the system. And so that's a cultural thing that's been going on in our country for 50 years. And whenever you have a cultural issue that is longstanding, we have to first recognize that you can't change that kind of culture overnight. And it's going to be a war. It's going to be a long, drawn out war. And you have to also recognize that you've got to educate the public about what is going on. So, for example, there's a big thing in our country about Bradley Cooper is going to be part of a PBS documentary about caregivers. Well, guess who's funding that documentary? The only thing everybody sees is Bradley Cooper, but the money for that is coming from big pharma for the most part. And some of it's coming from the long-term care industry. And if they're putting money into something, they expect a return on their investment. So it comes with some vigilance on our part in terms of questioning things that appear to be nice and shiny on the outside. It comes to trying to come up with a way to educate the public. And then it comes with, what follows, the next step would be to bring the public together and activate them and motivate them to demand change. And these are not this is not going to be a one-of thing. It's something that's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's a long run. I'm sure you all are. So,
yeah.
Now, just following up your question, Al, to Josephine. Josephine, L1 was asking about how do we bring the heart back to our sector? What do we need to do to bring the heart back? Am I right, Al?
Yeah.
Notice I'm calling you Al because I'm scared to get your name wrong now.
I'm sure we can solve it here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the head has been leading this conversation for so long, right? The data, the science, trying to give people the information they need to back up decisions. And the heart has got lost in the equation. I really believe that. For me, the heart is in the relationships. To me, the heart is in working with the families, the friends, like, how Wendy was talking about pre-diagnosis, diagnosis. The folks in that time and space are left so hopeless and helpless that they just accept what exists. And so they don't even know that there's another possibility. And I also believe that as much as there are so many of us who are working to change the system, we need folks like Community Homes Australia that create something new, because I think that might be the faster way to create change. Changing something that exists for decades after decade after decade is so ingrained in a toxic rooted culture. I don't know. I've honestly lost hope that we will actually be able to create a new culture, like by changing the one that exists. We need to create something new. And that's, to me, that's the way. So that's why I've joined this movement. That's why I believe there's hope, because we can all work together to create something new, and it can be for the folks who aren't going to be willing to just accept what exists anymore.
Can I just?
I feel like I've been losing hope a bit today, and you've all just re-inspired me on that. So thank you so much. It's a long battle, isn't it? And we all have our moments.
Can I add to that the Royal Commission suggested that to change the sector, there needs to be a movement of alternate ideas from people in the space. So they're looking to us, the community, we can't rely on the government to change the space. So that's why Rodney and I created Community Home Australia with our own money, using what government funding we were eligible for. So they want to see creative ideas that they can copy, and we don't care if people copy us and say that it was their model. Our aim is to inspire change on whatever level we can. And if you want to be, we did that first, we're not going to argue with you. We're like, congratulations, you did that first. We have zero ego, but with a big social media following and more inspiration, I think people can start to adapt out of the old and into the new, what Josephine was saying. But unless people like Rodney and I and a few other players around the world start to really push it back in people's faces that it's possible, and challenge what people think they know, there will never be any other options. So we need trailblazers and initiatives, and yes, if we get something wrong, but if we get something right, that's great too. So taking a lot more risk and putting yourself out there to fail, because as you know, our elders have zero time to waste. We should have done this 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 minutes ago. So we're not going away either. We're very, very Rodney and I are very, very resilient, and we like a challenge. There's lots of people talking in the background, by the way, but unless people like Rodney and I give a bit of a up yours to the system. I'm sorry, I know this is being recorded. Nobody's sorry, everyone else. I know that it's never going to change unless we challenge what's already out there. And we have a saying: if you love us, you'll copy us. If you hate us, you'll copy us. So win-win. Rodney, do you have anything to add to that about changing the system?
No.
Oh, he's
we
quiet.
were just catching eels.
Catching eels in the gutter just then. Sorry.
There are a few questions coming in, and there is a number of things in the chat saying be brave and don't lose hope. And I think that's what this is all about. And I just on that, before I go to Susie Singer-Carter, who's got a hand up, and back to Janice, I just wanted to say that let's remember that the movement to get electric vehicles in Australia, for those of us that live here and those that don't, it's been driven by people and usage and people innovating. It's not been driven by government, and it's certainly not been driven by other lobbies. And I think that it's time for us, as you said, Nicole, I do agree that it now needs to come from us. But that's a whole nother discussion. I'm going to have Susie Singer-Carter, you had your hand up. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to also, double up on what Alan was asking about, bringing the heart in. And I think that it comes through storytelling. And the more that we tell stories and we humanize the population, we humanize our people that are disabled, our most vulnerable, then people will relate to it, because you can have Frontline or 2020, exposés all day long, but they're factual and they don't touch the heart. They don't punch you in the gut and go, oh, that's my grandma, that's my wife, that's my sister, that's my brother. But stories do. So that's why I think it's really important that we tell our stories, because that's where we have power, and that's when we will connect. So that's why we're doing this. I think it's important.
Thank you, Susie. So could I just go, Janice, are you still there? Were you able to go off mute so we can have your question?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. I could hear you. Wow, what a lovely voice too. Let's do that question.
Okay, this is just my first time, and I'm absolutely amazed at what's going on out there. I just run, not just run, but we run a memory cafe for people living with dementia, and it's so successful. But I look at what we can be doing, and I'm so inspired about the dementia doula and getting out there into the community and humour and storytelling. And I'm sure I'm inspired, and we have a Dementia Alliance, and I want to take what I've learnt today to there and see how we can get out more into the community. So thank you very much for all the talk. It's really given me an inspiration of what more I can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Is it Janice or Janice?
Janice.
Thank you, Janice. And thank you for what you do out there. Really, really seriously, thank you.
I'm in Perth, WA. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you want to raise some money, and I'll come over and visit you and have a coffee. So donate now. Use the button on the right to donate to my fund to get me to Perth to visit. So I just would like to also add that this is, and there's a lot of great messages coming in the chat about hope and inspiration, and definitely that is what we've come together. As I said, my feeling, my world is getting bigger, and I don't mean bigger further away. I mean bigger with more people that I'm inspired by. So thank you, everyone. I just wanted to ask Susie, what do we need to do to get your film finished?
Well, we need funding. We need a little bit of funding to finish it up, just to get our, all of the crossing the I's and dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Yeah. So I mean, I can provide where to send if you want to, if you're so inclined, and it's all tax deductible. And if I don't know how that works internationally, but I'm certain there's some way to work it out.
Well, I think tax deduction is not a priority if given how important your film is, because I think I'll talk a little bit later another time about what I think about money. And I really resonated with Rick. So I think we should do that. So let's cancel my trip to Perth for the moment. and put the money into Susie's film.
Right, can I just interject? If anyone wants to leave money for Susie and Rick, if you want to do an Australian donation to Community Home Australia and just label who it's for, I'll make sure that that money gets straight to Susie. So please do use your Australian channels. We can put the details in the newsletter. Obviously, we'll be leaving a donation towards the cause. I just hit Rodney as I say that. And please do so. And I just want to say, Janice, I don't know you, but I literally love you already, and I will come.
Thank you.
You don't have to
thank
pay
you.
for it. I'll get Rodney to pay for it. And
I'm coming with you, Nicole.
Yeah, jump on the plane with me.
So I've got a question, if I may be so bold. Just something you said, Wendy Hall, which really resonated with me. You just said infiltrate through the families. Now, I really, really resonate with this. And Tony Sims put something in the chat as well. Janice, Wendy, what do you mean when you say infiltrate with the families? Like the families often, and I'm very cautious how I phrase this, the families are often the ones that pay the bills at residential aged care. And so what I've noticed, and wondering if you agree, is that families seem to be actually seen as the client sometimes rather than the actual elder. And I think that I get more bang for buck when I make the families happy or bring the families into the equation. And that seems to get more impact. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to what you've just highlighted. But I think the importance of infiltrating through families is that they are probably the most under-tapped resource that we have in the system. We're not going to get more staff anytime soon. We have family members who diligently turn up, as I said. They work so hard in the community context when supporting someone with dementia at home, yet they're not recognised for the skills and knowledge that they actually hold. Often when I've done training with staff and we're looking for a key to try and work out why someone is exhibiting certain responses, often families hold the key, but they're not empowered enough to be able to be part of the problem solving. And often the family members are coming from a place of grief and loss that they're not even recognising.
Yeah.
So they come into particularly the higher care environment. They're the ones that I would challenge staff on and say, when Mrs. Smith's daughter comes in like she does, if she's someone who wants to make a difference, she's the one that we usually go, oh, Mrs. Smith's daughter's here, and we duck into a side room because we think, oh gosh, we don't have time for her. We don't nurture and foster and work out where she's coming from, how we can make her part of the team. So I want to be able to build up families, or our team does, our community, but in a way that families learn how to work with staff and staff learn how to work with families and use them for the most vital resource that they are. They have to become part of the team because, again, we're not going to get an influx of staff. We're already in crisis. So, that's how I think we move forward. And they are a voice that needs to be listened to. So if we can help families to work with their dialogue, that's all they want to know. The families we connect with just say that certainly the books that I've written, often the feedback from families are that it's given them a dialogue with which to talk to the sector.
Yeah, and I, that's such good, there's really good stuff in there. I think, I don't know if anyone's got some comments. I do have Angela and Gwenda wanting to ask a question, but it's
Murray,
really...
we're going to run out of time.
Okay.
We're going to have to save this conversation for a future meeting for sure, because it's a very important.
So Angela and Gwenda, I'm just going to ask if you can put your questions, put a Q, and then your question in the chat. And maybe we can answer that. I'm sorry we didn't get to you. It's been very, very stimulating and interesting. Look, I'm going to hand over then to Sanal, who's going to take us through action points, homework, and what happens next. Over to you, Sanal.
Hello. So up to our next action items and next step, we'll be sending you all post-meeting recap newsletter with today's meeting recordings, today's presentation, interview booking, discoveries where there will be resources, books, movies to watch, etc. Anything you'd like to contribute, like books or videos or product or research, which will aid to open the doors. And also the details of our next meeting, the date, the time is yet to be decided. I would also like to interview you all amazing people. So please, please, please register for the interview. We'll post the link in the chat for you to book a time slot where the founders will be interviewing you all, where you can share your experience, perspectives, and also expertise. For the presentation for our next meeting, we are looking for the volunteers. So please, if you'd like to volunteer to present on our Open the Doors meeting, please email us at otd@communityhomeaustralia.org. And now I'll be passing over to Aaron to wrap it up.
Thanks, Sanal. All right, that was quick.
We're running out of time.
I know. And I shortened my time as well, just so that I could collect this together, because I was going to run through a big overview of today's session. And I've compressed it down into just wow. So I think I was having a lot of trouble timekeeping that, because I just wanted everybody to keep talking, because it was just explosions of ideas. And Wendy, I've met 2 people today from Adelaide, so I wouldn't say it's a sleepy place, both absolutely amazing. So Michael Page this morning doing the interview, that was just incredible. And there's been this whole theme and summary today of just change and how to lead that change, and across all of the presentations. And I thought that it was fantastic. Just finding out about what Susie was saying about leading that from a media sort of point of view. Rick, your points and just your sharing your knowledge about the system in the States, and it's just I think it's similar globally, certainly in Western countries. It's so interesting to hear about that. I'm going to try and keep it to 2 minutes. So I did just write a bit of a line that I'm going to read, because just trying to collect my stuff. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of our amazing speakers today for being the stars. But it's not just the amazing speakers, because you are stars, but equally, Janice, you're a star. That's incredible over there.
Thank you.
Really incredible. And we're all stars. So so just for providing the guidance and direction through what is sort of uncharted waters for us at the moment. So as we light this up, we can see where to go, and we're really starting to see where to go. I think we've got a meeting in 2 weeks, but I'm not 100% sure of the exact date and time. We will announce that, unless Nicole, you know.
I do know it's going to be the same time next Tuesday, same day in a fortnight's time, but we're going to the afternoon time slot in Australia. It's going to be at 1600 hours, so we start to get more of Europe as a go, and then in 2 weeks' time we'll do a really late meeting in Australia to give the rest of the country a go, and then we're going to do a 4-time slot rotation. Now, I know that sounds like a lot to take in, but we really thought it was only fair if we rotate time zones across the world, and everybody will have a go at either being part of it or watching a webinar. So 1600 this time, the same day next fortnight. And we'll put that in the newsletter, and I will change the dates on the invites. You'll see that come through.
Thanks, Nicole. Now, at the end, we've got the 2 trailers for No Country for Old People and My Mum and the Girl from Susie. So I will pass back to Rhiannon. Have you got that trailer there?
Yes, no, it's just the end of the
Yes, Nell's got it. Awesome.
As I watched my mother fade away within the confines of a nursing home, I discovered that behind the facade of care lies a dark reality of neglect and abuse. This is the story of our struggle and countless others trapped in the grip of the nursing home crisis.
The founder of Cleveland-based Life Care Centers of America is now one of the richest people in America.
Hospice is big business.
That is a big business.
The way they move their money is just like a criminal enterprise.
They're trying to make her die faster than she wants to.
You're tortured.
So sorry.
And you're tortured to death.
You are literally killing people to make more money.
That's completely inappropriate, and there's terms for that.
What are those terms?
Oh, that's murder.
When cash is the primary reason for doing something
She's in pain because they're not taking care of her.
Sorry. I know.
anywhere in the healthcare system,
My mother's death was a brutal death at the nursing home.
people suffer.
They're throwaway people. That's all they are, is throwaway people.
We have to look in the mirror and ask ourselves as a country, what are we going to do for our older adults, for our most vulnerable, for our loved ones? And I think that's why you're doing this documentary.
To me, it's the shame of the nation.
Susie, I'm speechless and I have tears in my eyes. This is so needed. And Rick,
thank you.
We could do an Australian version of that, you know, but you captured it across the globe. We would love to launch that and hire out a theatre and promote that really heavily for you in Australia, if you'd allow us to.
Absolutely.
We'll be blown away.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Okay, everybody. Well, it's kind of a really gosh.
You were gonna show one more clip, I believe. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, there's one more? Okay.
From the girl, and then
That's my mom, the year she lived with me. The year I call my best and my worst. But either way, she's the love of my life.
Bitch! I know you're in there.
I knew she was getting worse,
It's 4 in the morning. Where are you
but I was not sending her to one of those places.
You have to put me in a home and live your life.
Oh, you're going.
Not yet.
You're not ready.
Baby, don't you worry about me.
Okay, I wasn't ready. But what could be better than living with people you know and love?
Who's your friend? Annie. Does this look like a nanny?
And having the best caregiver in the world.
Yolanda!
For you, nanny, yummy, yummy.
Come on, let's go find your pajamas.
Hello.
Just figuring it
Sure.
out.
Sometimes you gotta fight through the bad days.
What's your problem, gorgeous?
Me?
Yeah.
Honey, you don't want to go there. Trust me. What's yours?
She's sick.
I like hell I am. I am not sick.
But after the bad days,
what's not to love?
Come the best days of your life.
Baby, don't you wait for me.
Nanny.
What? You are my best friend, you joke?
Thank you.
I'm very wealthy. I mean, I'm just saying. Think about it.
Oh, I will.
It's good, isn't it?
One of my favorites.
Well, don't rush away. What are you doing?
I'm not saying it was easy.
Get away from me!
Who are you?
I'm saying it was worth it.
I love you.
we love you, Susie. That was brilliant.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I just put the link in the chat, so if you all want to watch it, you don't have to go to iTunes and pay for it. I want to everyone, and it really does point out a lot of, you know, some of the similar issues that we all go through with our loved ones, and how I learned to lean into it, and the beauty of other caregivers and the community when you let them help you.
Susie, what is the format that we can, like you saying we can have it for free, that's all well and good, but is there a format where we can purchase it, which helps donate money to your cause to get the other film made? Like that's the priorities, to get your
We
film
want to
made.
pay for it, Susie. There's an iTunes link.
Well, what happens is when you go through iTunes or all the things, it's going to go to our distributors. So don't worry about that. Just watch it for free, and we'll work. Yeah, I appreciate it. You guys are so amazing. I just love you. You have the huge
Watch
heart.
it for free and donate some money
Please
to
watch it for
CHA.
free. Yeah. And if you love it, let me know. And I I made it with, so much heart and love. And so I hope that you enjoy it and that it helps.
You rock.
Thank you.
Susie, before we go, have you thought about doing a crowdfunding campaign?
Yeah, that's what we did, and that's how we've gotten this far with the movie. We did a crowdfunding through GoFundMe and also just social media. We've done the really, it's been a lot of work. Like I said, we have a fiscal sponsor. It just it's just the tail end of it that we're trying to get the final bit for it, and so all that's in place to do crowdfunding. It's just it's a lot of effort, and I feel like we've tapped out all of our community so much.
No, not at all. I think because I've got a contact here in Australia, I actually raised $11,000 myself on a crowdfunding campaign with a company here in Australia. So I'll reach out to Tom and see whether we can actually raise some more funds for you.
Thank you so much.
Who was that?
Start Some Good, Maury. Tom Dawson.
Great. Hello.
Murray, Murray, you're the best.
We will be working out sainthoods. Some people will be canonized and receive sainthoods. I
will genuflect.
Rodney's offered that.
I genuflect to you. I will do it hip hop style for you.
Oh yes, I'm ready.
We're not. Sorry, Rick.
That's okay. I just want to say we're not taking any dirty pharma money or any big corporate money. And now you know why I'm carrying Susie's bags.
Yeah, and I want to see you rap as well, Rick. I want 2 rappings, if that's okay. 2
Yes, honestly, can I just give Rick a big shout out, because honestly, like, he has taught me so much that when I went out for every grant I could, and a lot of them, when at the end of the day they had conflicts of interest. So, and then a couple of few that were like interested, and Rick said, that's blood money, you need to pass, and so we did. So it is all done with integrity. So the money that it's all come from the people, we are very proud of it. And that's because of Rick helping and really guiding us in that and vetting all of it. And he's an angel in my life.
Can we quickly hear from Gwenda? I know you really have your hand up and we'd love to hear what you have to say. Gwenda, you there?
Thanks, Nicole. I just want to say, we're still on the term elders. It's all about the language. But let's not forget those living with younger onset dementia. They're not elders. There are many people living with younger onset dementia at the moment who are feeling forgotten. And we've got the SODs, the senior onset dementia, but we need to remember the odds as well. Just want to throw that one in.
That's a beautiful discussion. I'm writing something about that to generate a discussion, but I just would like to say, just in response to that, Gwenda, with all due respect, that elders doesn't mean older people. Elders is the people that are older. And if you're in a group of, if you're a young person of a teenager and you're with a 30-year-old, say the Thai cave situation, the older gentleman with those boys was the elder in the cave. So elder doesn't refer to old person, which is why some of us use it, but it's something we should really discuss, because terminology is a tricky realm, and I wonder if we'll ever get to the point where we're all comfortable. But point taken, Gwenda, and thank you for raising it.
A really good point. It's more the younger onset dementia people, people living with younger onset dementia.
And children.
And children.
We have children with dementia as well.
I'm at Bear Cottage, and we get a lot of kids with babies with the childhood dementia. It's really heartbreaking.
That's very new, and we have a little bit of involvement. We've been asked to get involved in that space where we are thinking about doing a respite home for that group. But I'll just say that we specialise in younger onset dementia, and we never use the word yod at them, and it's just Jim, and it's just Hector, and it's not a thing. So I understand what you're saying. They're definitely not elders where we are. I speak on behalf of a whole lot of people with dementia out there, and I change my language appropriately.
I'm so sorry to interrupt everybody. Since we've lost our expert narrator for the day. But this is all such wonderful discussion, and I'm sure Murray is jotting down all the notes so that we can make sure that we can pick up these topics at our next meeting. So I'd like to thank everybody again for being here, all of the presenters, and the discussion that you're all talking about. That's why we're all here, right? We're all here to share information, to join together, and that's how we're going to change the future of all this. So we will see you in a fortnight, or in Canada, I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Josephine,
or bi-monthly.
sorry to
Yes?
interrupt. I was just wondering if we could possibly just get everybody who's able to put their cameras on for a second, and I'll just count it out on the count of 3. Just yell out, "Open the doors," and we'll grab a screenshot. Okay.
Ready,
Right,
everybody?
so
You need to open it up a bit more. How many screens do you have on your?
I've got about 7 by 4, so about 28.
Oh, perfect. All right.
Okay, so on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, open the doors.
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 Can you open the door? Any more? A little bit more.
Just before we wind up, I heard of an initiative yesterday by Neura, Music and Memories. I don't know if anyone knows about it, but I heard a beautiful singer, and it's people going to work with dementia patients to actually create songs for them. And it's an initiative that's funded by a company called Neura, Neura.
Okay.
Thanks, Danny. We'll look into that and add it to the next newsletter.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, look at. Once again, this has been fabulous. You're all my new family, if you like it or not. Can't get rid of me now, or Rodney. So here we are.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a beautiful day. We'll see you in a fortnight in a different time zone. We appreciate your patience with circulating through the time zones, but we do want to be a group that does accommodate everyone. And we're going to go have a cocktail at midday. So,
Oh, yay.
Bye.
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 Bye.